The user interface of the Vitrobot consists of two parts. One is the console, where you can see the general information and status of the Vitrobot, and the other one is the options menu, where you can select several options for your blotting procedure. We go to the console. On the top left corner there is an information box that tells you the status about the temperature. Currently the temperature is 22.5 degrees, and you can set the temperature between 4 and 60 degrees Celsius. The next box tells us the humidity of the system. Currently it's at 84.5% humidity, and you can set it between 0 and 100. There's three options. Off means that the humidifier is off. This is when you're not using the system. On is that the system controls when the humidity is going to be switched on or off, dependent on the settings that you have chosen. And man stands for manual, and this is when you manually want to switch on the humidity to have a certain burst of water vapor being put into the chamber. There is a timer and a stopwatch on the Vitrobot for time-controlled experiments, and at the bottom there are the controls. So the upper box is place new grid. I can now place a new grid and then continue the process. Start process means starting the process of vitrifying a sample. This is now grayed out because we don't have a grid in the Vitrobot yet. There is an option reset blot papers. This option you can press when you have exchanged the blotting papers. You can see 0 out of 16. The blotting papers are round, and you can blot 16 times before you are overlapping the blotting papers with previous blots. So you can blot 16 times before you have to replace the papers. And this simply sets it to 0. And exit is when you switch off the Vitrobot, you will exit these settings. At the bottom you can switch on and off the light, and in this page you will get information that the machine feeds back to you. The second tab is going to be the options tab. So here we can set the blot settings. At the top you can store, you can add and delete specific settings that you commonly use, and you can scroll through these settings and load new settings or add new settings at will. At the bottom you will find the settings that you will use during a blotting process. You have the ability to control blot time, wait time, drain time, blot force, blot total, and skip application. First, blot time. This is the time it takes for the blotting of the specimen. So after you have put a droplet of liquid on your grid and the blot pads come together, this timer starts to run. In this case it's a 20-second blot time. Normally we will blot less, so you can change this with these arrows into a shorter blot time. So let's say we're gonna do a 2-second blot time, which we generally use. The wait time is the time it waits after you have applied a droplet. The drain time is the time it waits after it has blotted the excess liquid away. So if you have a grid and you apply a droplet and you have a wait time of 10 seconds, after application it will wait 10 seconds before it will blot. If you set a drain time of 10 seconds, then when you apply a droplet, this droplet is blotted away, the blot pads will go to the outside, and then it will wait 10 seconds before it will plunge the grid into the ethane. Both options can be useful for doing chemical experiments in the Vitrobot, but in generally they're not used. Blot force is the force at which the blot pads will blot the grid, and if we go upwards it ranges between plus 25 and minus 25. Going to 25 will be a stronger force at which we blot, and going below 0 will be a weaker force at which we blot. This depends a bit on the viscosity of the sample and how much liquid you apply. Then blot total is the amount of times that the specimen is blot. If you put more than 1, it will blot 2 or 3 or 4 times in succession, depending on how many times you will select for blot total. Skip application is something that is not used much. If you select that, then when the rod, after you've mounted the tweezers with a grit, when that rod comes up into the humidifying chamber, there is no application step. So this will imply that the grit that you have mounted on the tweezers already has a sample present on it, and then it will skip an application step. In general, that is not used anymore. At the top in miscellaneous, we have a number of options that we can also select or deselect. Use foot pedal. Most of the time I would use the foot pedal, so when you check that box, then you don't have to press with this stick the next step, but the next step is automatically done by pressing the foot pedal. Humidifier off during process is also something I would select. This is that the humidifier will be switched off after the sample has been blotted. A reason for doing so is that when you have blotted a very thin sample of liquid on your grit and the humidifier would switch on, it would blow water droplets on your thin film. So with this option checked, it will not increase the humidity after it has been after the grit has been blotted. Then there is a skip grit transfer. There is an automatic grit transfer step, but I'm doing this normally by hand and not using the machine, so I would also skip that grit transfer step. The auto raise ethane lift is an option that after you have put the tweezers on the plunging rod and you press the foot pedal, it automatically will raise the ethane and it will not wait for your command to do so. I normally leave this unchecked because I want to be in control of every step. Then we have a load and a save button here, which either loads the settings that you've previously used or save the settings that you currently have in a new file. And the controls here are the same as in console that tell you which steps you can take.